So I was talking to a client earlier this morning because we were having this conversation, and I just thought, let me ask somebody who's actually making a bunch of hires. And this is a guy that's president of a software business. He happens to not have a degree. I placed him a number of years ago when the requirement was you have to have a degree, but we got him in there anyways. So I asked him, does the degree make a difference? And his comment to me was, just because somebody has a degree doesn't mean they're any good at their job. However, if somebody feels that it's necessary to become better at their job, fantastic, but not to make a decision, because a really, really unmotivated person without a degree is no different than an unmotivated person with a degree. They're still unmotivated is the common denominator. Flip side is a very motivated person with a degree. Great, you got kind of both. So that was his opinion when you're talking about hiring developers. Dana, you were going to say something.
College shows that, okay, you have the knowledge. You pretty much have, you pretty much know, I guess, about what's going on in your field. But to have things like prior experience, internships, et cetera, that shows that you are more than just what your college degree says. That shows that you are motivated. That means you are driven to succeed in this. So I feel like a college degree shows that you have the knowledge, but prior experience shows that you are driven to actually improve and to succeed.
And you're probably going to apply the knowledge.
Yeah, they're actually going to apply it, yeah.
Robin, you were going to say something. You had a couple of times I saw your hand go, please,
just
can I say something?
So I would, in my experience being a recruiter, I would say that as I'm looking through resumes, I have seen so many times where, especially within human resources, that a candidate has pursued a higher level of degree, a bachelor degree or a master's degree, and hasn't really gained any true experience within the industry before that they have moved into even their master's.
So continuous education, no work experience, but continuing to move up in education.
So now they have a master's degree in human resources, but they are not even being considered for an HR assistant because they've
no practical experience.
They have no practical experience. Yeah. So to what Dana was saying, and I made sure I did myself when I was obtaining my degree, is just making sure that I applied my degree into opportunities like internships, whether they're paid internships or unpaid. I worked for a nonprofit organization in an internship just to gain experience within HR. So I think that the key piece is, obtaining the knowledge and the degrees while you're gaining the experience at the same time. I think that's really what makes somebody successful, not just gaining the degree itself.
Again, a good degree doesn't necessarily make a bad person good, and vice versa, right? Okay, so obviously we don't require degrees here. There's actually not a role within our company that we require a degree. A degree is a plus if it's the right person, but the lack of a degree doesn't actually take them out. And that seems to be an ongoing sentiment. If they can do the job, do we really care as much? But I do think there's roles that you absolutely got to have it. HR is a good example only because there's so many compliance issues and law-related issues and so on. You don't have a choice. Doctor, all of the other things that we talked about. But if you were giving advice, and any of you have kids, hopefully you've got one. That's right, I've met. Yeah. So giving advice to your children, if you had kids or have a kid, as you do, Anthony, what advice would you give your children about college, going to or not, based on what you see happening now?
Well, Lily, when you see this, go to college, but make sure that when you're taking your steps to preparing yourself, look at what you want to do. You don't need to be locked in to this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, but you need to think about, is this degree going to leverage me in my career field or my area of interest? And I think that's the key, having something that you're interested in, because you can value that and you can leverage that into something that you're going to then, fall in love with career-wise.
Fair enough.
For me, it was psychology.
That's the springboard into HR.
Yes. Yeah. It springboarded right into HR, fell in love with it. And so from there, I've learned about HR. I wasn't interested in HR.
Sure.
So from there, I can kind of set myself up to getting the jobs that I'm gonna be in love with.
Justin, your thought. If you're giving advice to the child you don't have right now, what's the advice you'd give?
I guess the advice I would give is that it seems like, especially with today's parenting, parents basically tell their kids, you graduate high school and you're going to go to college.
That is what is expected even when I graduated from high school.
Yep, yeah. And I think what it really needs to be is if you know what you want to do and you're passionate about something, sure, go straight into college, go straight into internships, do whatever you think is the best for you. But if you're not sure what you want to do, whatever you're going to go to college for, realistically is what you want to do for the next 40, 50 years. And if you don't know or you're not 100% sure, take a few years maybe and think about it. Maybe try to get an internship, introduce yourself to the field. Because I have several friends who spent 2, 3, 4 years pursuing a degree and then they decide to change it.
Sure.
Because their parents were like, you need to go do this.
I went to school to be an architect. Did it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are 25 years later, sitting in this room. Right. Riley, question for you. So
Sure.
if you had the choice between going back to school and not going to school for your college degree, what would you do? Would it be the same thing?
I would still do the same thing.
Okay, now
because,
second question
All right.
on that. Do you think it's for everybody?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So
You all just talked about all the great things about having a college degree. Get it? It doesn't make a bad person good, but why isn't it for everybody?
there's a lot of things that have been mentioned, such as finishing things through
Yeah.
and doing things that college doesn't necessarily have to teach you. Yes, it shows that a lot, but right after I got out of high school, I started working, and I worked all the way through college, paid for college. Did everything.
You paid for it yourself?
Yep, came
Good.
out debt free.
Good.
And if that doesn't show responsibility, but even if that person decided not to go to college, so let's say if I just decided to work for 4 years and to save up enough money while I'm living with my parents, figuring out what I want to do, I would say that's okay too. But the fact of the matter is, they're not just sitting at home.
They're applying themselves
They're
somewhere.
applying themselves somewhere, whether or not it's in the field they don't necessarily want to do. But they're getting that work ethic, they're getting that experience, like we've all mentioned, because there's a big play there as well of, okay, this person has experience, but he has no degree.
Yeah.
But if you have both, like I mentioned before, you get a leg up.
Sure. Dana, question for you. Is it just expected that you're going to college?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So
What if you told your parents are probably going to see this, so be careful.
Yeah.
So what if you told your parents, hey, I'm not going to go to school?
I don't want to think about that. That's scary. But no.
So that's the expectation.
But no, it definitely is the expectation. And going off of the last question is that it really isn't for everybody. And that's part of the big message of the internship program that I'm in, is that not all of these, fields, not, all of these spending 4 years, getting an education is for everyone. That's why there's a separate part of the program that I'm in where some kids in the group get more like a hands-on, like a trade kind
Vocational
of
type
experience.
thing. Sure.
Vocational training.
And
That's the
you
word.
know,
Yeah.
plumbers right now make $150,000 because there's a shortage of them. You realize this?
Yeah.
And they didn't go to college.
So it really isn't for everyone. It's about, what you're actually wanting to do, whether you can spend, that money, or even if you can't spend the money, there's a ton of options out there still.
Yeah.
There's community college. I know community college for 2 years, then transferring to another school. That's becoming really popular, especially for people that I know, because
It's also cheaper.
Yeah, because compared to the price of other colleges, community colleges, again, like in comparison, are like dirt cheap.
Yep.
Compared, for what you get.
40,000
it's
versus
amazing.
7,000.
It's
in some
amazing.
instances.
Yeah. So it really isn't for everyone. It's about what you can afford, what you eventually want to do, and what you think that you're good at. And, obviously how much you're willing to apply yourself. And so those 4 things really go into what career you're going to succeed in, what kind of education you're going to need. So it's all about the different person.
Ian, has it hindered you at all not having a degree?
I don't think so. Not for what I've ever.
So by the way, before this conversation,
Yeah.
I didn't even know you didn't have a degree
Yeah.
because I don't care.
Yeah. I also don't care. That's good. It hasn't hindered me for what I wanted to do, and I've always But I've always been very interested in it, and I've always been motivated to be in the field and do the things that I wanted to do.
Learn it on your own.
Which is why I left in the first place. But I will say that going for the time that I went, there was value there.
Sure.
So I went because I was interested in it, and as soon as I got in there, I took all my core classes, all the marketing classes first. I was like really, really excited about it, and I loved it. And I think that helped to motivate me further, and just kind of confirm, like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm interested in, and learning all these concepts and stuff. And I was so excited about it that I couldn't even finish.
Brett, I'm going to ask you this. We're going to end with you. Same final question. Is it for everybody, in your opinion?
It's not for everybody. I think it depends on what you want to do. I think I will say this, though. I think that college degrees are becoming the expectation. They're not the exception anymore. So if you're going to get a degree, get it in like a highly specialized industry, get it in something that you're passionate about. So that's my take on it. I feel they're not for everyone. For some degrees, or for some jobs, you don't need to go to college, like you mentioned about the plumbers, and also the highly specialized trades. And if you want to start a business, I feel you don't need a business degree to start a business. I mean, yes, having that knowledge helps, but I feel it depends on the person, and that's what's going to help your success and what stands you apart.
I've got 2 kids. Some of you have met my kids because one of them used to work here, the other one used to freelance here. My daughter, who's the older one, is going on for her master's in education to be a teacher. So she's teaching right now. She doesn't have a choice. That is her DNA. My son, on the other hand, for those of you that have met him, decided after a year and a half of college, forget it, has nothing to do with him, and ultimately launched his own business and is being very successful. The lack of degree has not hindered him one bit. So I've got one of each. I don't know that there's a right or there's a wrong answer, but I appreciate everybody's kind of input on it. It's going to be interesting to see what continues to happen, especially as the economy continues to grow, assuming that it continues to grow. With the shortage we have right now, companies have to give up the requirement at some point for some positions of the degree. But I don't necessarily think it minimizes the importance and the ability for those of you that decided to go get a degree. I don't want to take that away from you either. So let me just close with this particular whether an organization requires a degree or not, we have to be careful how we look at a degree. It's kind of like years of experience does not equal a skill. As recruiters, we have this tendency with our hiring leaders, they want 10 years of experience. It's not about 10 years, it's about what do they know. Just because you have a degree doesn't mean you know. Guys, thank you again for joining another edition of Recruiter Fuel. Thank you to my studio audience again. I'm sure this will not be the last of the topic. Check us out a week from today.